Formula One is basically a sport, not just for fast cars, but it's a sport that does require teamwork, hard work, and consistency. And I mean, the F1 grid of today, well, every team is working hard. And I mean, you cannot dispute that. In the 2021 season, out of the 10 teams that were in the 2021 season, 8 of them got a podium. You can look at Mercedes, of course, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Alpine, and Williams as well. It was only Alfa Romeo and Haas that didn't get any podiums. But Formula One requires teamwork and hard work. But the thing is, if there's none of that, then there is no F1 grid. And today is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having our dream F1 grid, or my dream F1 grid. So this took some time to think about. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about this dream F1 grid. I mean, it's not necessarily have to be the teams of today, but even past teams, I guess. You can bring past teams, past drivers. And I can't wait for you guys to see this one. Of course, I've probably leaked one in the community post, but we're not going to talk about that because there's just no need to. So we're going to be getting started with my dream F1 grid. Of course, we're going to be starting with the reigning Constructors Champions, Mercedes. This one, I believe you know who's going to be there. Okay, Lewis Hamilton has to be there. 7-time Formula One champion, has the most titles with Mercedes. I mean, why shouldn't he be there? He achieved almost everything with Mercedes. He achieved 6 titles with them. And I mean, most of his wins came at the silver hours. I mean, Mercedes weren't that good prior to 2014, but from 2014 and later, they've just been on a different level. And then to make up the second part of this is going to be someone that at least a whole lot of you should know. Juan Manuel Fangio, 5-time Formula One world champion. One of the guys to win an F1 championship with different teams. He won one with Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, and Mercedes. I think Maserati, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to correct myself on that one. But my Mercedes dream team is going to be Lewis Hamilton and Juan Manuel Fangio. Combined, it's 12 world championships. What more do you want? That is an incredible duo. And this can be crazy. Moving on to Ferrari, the greatest team in Formula One history. We're going to be including the most obvious, Michael Schumacher, 7-time champion again, and 91 Grand Prix victories. I mean, there's no way you can exclude Michael Schumacher in a dream team for Formula One. I mean, if you've watched F1 before for more than 5 or 7 years, I'm sure Schumacher has to be on your dream team list and undisputable. And the second driver is going to be someone that almost everyone knows. Niki Lauda, of course, the late great Niki Lauda. I mean, 3 world championships. If you combine Schumacher and Lauda, it's 10 world championships, which I mean is very, very cool. I would love to see that. If only that was to happen in real life, I would pay to see that. I mean, maybe I would pay to see Niki Lauda and Michael Schumacher be teammates. But sadly, we just can't. But let's not give our hopes up yet. But Michael Schumacher and Niki Lauda would be my Ferrari dream team. Moving on to Red Bull, a team that has got so much glory in the past, few years, and produced a young superstar who's actually in this team. So of course, I've just leaked one. Sorry, but I've just gonna say Sebastian Vettel, 4-time world champion, has to be on this list. Of course, there's nothing you can do about it. He's Red Bull's greatest driver. He's the best driver Red Bull's ever had. Certainly better than Ricciardo, than Webber, than Christian Klein or something like that, or just other Red Bull drivers, to be honest. And who's going to be partnering him? Max Verstappen, of course, the reigning world champion, Formula One, F1's newest champion, and another new motorsport world champion, and 5 titles combined amongst the 2 of them. It's fair enough. I mean, you can't really argue against that. Of course, Verstappen's got a title for Red Bull, Vettel's got 4. I mean, who else do you want me to pick? Mark Webber? I mean, it would sound a bit rude. Mark Webber has been teammates with Vettel for about 3 years, I think, 4 years, 2009 until 2013. And he's been teammates with Ricardo and just other people, to be honest. Moving on to McLaren here, and McLaren is going to be the most obvious, I guess. Obviously, we're going to pick Ayrton Senna because Senna is one of the true F1 GOATs. You cannot disclude him in Dream F1 grids. I mean, Senna is, in all honesty, one of the fastest and most aggressive drivers to ever exist. And without him, there would have been no such thing as aggression in Formula One. And I mean, not the bad type of aggression, but the guy that's always on top, setting those killer laps. I can bring examples of 1991 Adelaide, 1990 Monaco. Of course, I was not alive at the time. I was not even a human. I was not even in the womb at the time. But I've just seen those laps before, especially Adelaide 1991, 1990 Monaco. Those are the killer laps of Formula One. And Senna has to be there, but who's going to partner him? Well, I might say someone might say Alan Prost, but no, I'm going to pick Mika Hakkinen because Hakkinen, whether you like it or not, has to be there. For me, Hakkinen is just massively underrated. I think he's F1's most underrated champion. Barely anyone talks about him. I don't remember the last time anyone gave Hakkinen credit for being a McLaren world champion. And to be honest, it's such a coincidence that I watched a video of Lewis Hamilton and Mika Hakkinen be together. Most people would like, this is all fun and all. They were McLaren's two last drivers world champions. I mean, Hakkinen is the second last. He's the penultimate McLaren driver champion to be there. Prost hasn't won a title for McLaren in I don't know how many years now. But Prost, I mean, okay, he's not there. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. Moving on to Williams now. Williams, a team that's full of history, of course. I mean, even though the late great Sir Frank Williams isn't around with us today, may soul rest in peace. Williams still moves on as a team and still strives to be champions. If they're good, if they get proper drivers, if they make a faster car, I don't think drivers is anything, but if they get a faster car, if they produce a faster car, they could be on top of the world once again, just like they were many years back in the early 2000s or something like that. But for Williams, I'm gonna have to pick Nigel Mansell because Mansell, he's a very fantastic driver, and when he's on a qualifying lap, he's something else. Just like Sir Frank Williams said, I've never seen anyone get out of a car just like Mansell does on a qualifying lap. And I mean, Mansell was talented. Despite him winning one championship, whereas I thought he had won 2 or 3, Mansell just really had that racing blood in him. And then another Williams champion, this time 5 years apart from each other, is Jacques Villeneuve. Now, of course, a few people may say, where's Damon Hill? Where's Alan Jones? I mean, okay, Alan Jones, I don't know much about him. He was from the 80s and 70s, I guess. And Damon Hill, I'm not really bothered about Damon Hill, unfortunately. It may sound rude to say that, but it's just my Dream F1 grid. I can say whatever I want. But Jacques Villeneuve, yes, he has to be there. He's very underrated, if you ask me. I think he's one of the most underrated F1 champions you can think of. Moving from Britain to France, Renault. This shall be good, and I think it's quite obvious. Well, these two have already been teammates before, but the first driver is going to be Fernando Alonso because, well, Fernando Alonso is a 2-time F1 champion. Very fast guy. The guy they now call El Plan, and I mean, why not? Why can't you call him El Plan? The plan is going to work one day. Fernando Alonso, yes, 2-time champion, won the last... He's Renault's last winner, I think. If that's wrong, please correct me. But he last won for Renault in 2008, I think, at Singapore. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Fernando Alonso has to be there. Jarno Trulli has to be there as well. I couldn't think of any other Renault driver that I've seen that's very talented. Jarno Trulli, yes, he's had his mishaps of Brazil 2009, but those are just mistakes that almost every racing driver or F1 driver has had. in their careers. And I mean, Jarno Trulli's quick. You don't remember Monaco 2004? Once again, wasn't watching F1 at the time, but I've seen archived footage of that. So yes, Trulli has to be there, no exception. Moving on to AlphaTauri, or as you may call it, Toro Rosso. I don't think anyone calls it Toro Rosso anymore, because Toro Rosso was a very, very long time ago. But I think it's fair enough to say Pierre Gasly, because Gasly is like Toro Rosso's most successful driver. He's won a race with them. And yes, I guess a few people may disagree, but in my opinion, Gasly deserved to be there. Whether you like it or not, he deserved to be there. And then the second one, not many people are not going to know this. Daniel Kvyat, or as we may call it, the Torpedo. But Kvyat, I mean, he's underrated. I mean, yes, he may have a few mishaps in his career, but I mean, his Toro Rosso drives have been exquisite. He may have made a few mistakes over the years, but Kvyat has just got that inner talent in him. And I mean, that podium in Germany was very unexpected. Germany 2019, very unexpected. But Kvyat deserves a second chance in Formula One. And I think a few people may agree. Maybe he was thrown out too early, a bit too harsh for someone like Yuki Tsunoda. Moving on to Aston Martin now, or Force India if you're in the olden days. And the first one, of course, has to be Sergio Perez. Force India or Aston Martin's only ever race winner. And yes, Perez maybe deserves to be higher, but it's what I can think of. But Perez, very talented. I mean, yes, sure, he may have his mishaps, but Perez is a very great driver. He's a very fantastic one, and I've observed him over the years to be very, very quick. You can't deny that. He is very quick. And then, of course, you've got Force India's first ever pole sitter, Giancarlo Fisichella. Now, this guy, to be honest, is underrated. His driving style was brilliant. I mean, for him to get a pole at Force India with a car that had no curse at all in 2009 in Belgium, it was just mad. It tells you how much competition there was before the 2010s came, and only God knows what happens if there was no 2010s. But Giancarlo Fisichella has to be there. Moving on to Sauber now, and we're going to put Sauber's last ever winner. It was Robert Kubica, and Robert Kubica, I mean, Giga Kubica, has to be there because he's one of those guys that you cannot dispute, had a lot of talent in his early F1 days, and him being Sauber's last winner, as I've already said, in Canada 2008, very, very crazy race. Well, he just has to be there. And then next is Nick Heidfeld, who's achieved a handful of podiums with Sauber. Heidfeld, well, yes, he may be very underrated in my opinion as an F1 driver, but he was extremely quick, extremely talented as well. And Heidfeld, yes, he may have had his time, but just don't think about the days of 2010 and later, because those days are way behind us. Moving on to the last team, which none of you might expect. This is Lotus. Now, I'm going to bring a lot of things into this here. I'm going to bring some ancient drivers from the 60s specifically. And if you don't know these guys, I really feel sorry for you. The first one is Jim Clark. If you've never heard of him, I'm sorry, I'm very, very sorry. Because Jim Clark, three-time F1 champion, has to be one of the GOATs of F1. He was extremely quick, and I mean, Indy 500 winner as well. Jim Clark has to be there. I mean, one of the fastest guys, the fastest guy at the time in the 60s, in the mid-60s. Sure, I may not know much about him because I wasn't alive at the time in the 1960s. But Clark, I mean, a fast driver, and, well, Colin Chapman's, best friend, as Colin Chapman said once. It's from a quote. And then the next one is a guy that barely anyone knows, but is extremely fast. Jochen Rindt, who is also a fast driver. And I mean, Jochen Rindt, he had his life taken too early. In 1970, he was the world champion, but he won the title after he was killed at Monza. But Lotus, there you go, Jim Clark, and Jochen. I may not know much about them because I wasn't alive during the times they were racing. But yeah, guys, that is my dream F1 grid. A lot of controversial ones, a lot of nice ones, and a lot of unexpected ones. But let me know what you think about any of these. And if you want to see more content just like this, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button and let me know what you thought in the comments. And from me, Octave F1, it's goodbye.